Okay.
So, what was your motivation to be a director?
I always wanted to be a director since I went to university and started studying film. I didn't know I was going to be a director, but I wanted to question, should I look at the camera of the person that's asking me, or it doesn't matter?
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Oh, okay. So I will. I always, I was just interested in college. I just fell in love with film, and I was like, I want to be a part of this. I don't know how. And I directed a little bit in college, little, terrible films. And then I did a little bit when I got out, but then when I had to find a job, editing became more available to me, because they weren't hiring directors without experience. They don't have ads in the paper. Director, no experience needed. So editing I just knew how to do, and so that was my in. But I always wanted to do it. And I always tried doing it, and I did some shorts and things like that, but the opportunities came in editing, and that's where I headed. And always said, I want to direct, and eventually I hit a point where I said, okay, enough. I need to stop editing, or I won't be able to direct, because it takes so much focus and so much time to try to get things off the ground. So, yeah.
What are the challenges of directing? Because with editing, you don't have to direct people. Now you are the actors,
Yeah.
so you have to direct, and this is kind of new things for you.
Yes, you have to rely on a lot more people, and that's where you have to learn. You have to learn that you are, to some extent, a manager. That you, at least my approach to it is that you hire a cinematographer, and he has to understand what you want to do, but he understands light better than you.
Yeah.
And you hire an actor for a variety of reasons, but once they learn the character, in a way they know the character more than you. They have a deeper understanding because they live in that character. And so in a strange way, it's about that. It's about clarity. Part of it is about being positive, strangely. And other editors, other director friends told me that. It's just like, there's so many things to be disappointed with. That they don't go right, when you're shooting film. There's just so much stress, and you can just be like, Or you can go, hey, great, let's, part of it is that, and the unknown, there's a lot less control, because you're dealing with humans instead of a computer where you can, like every little thing you can control. So the human element can make it very difficult or very interesting and elevated. And so I think you have to approach it and go the human element, whether it's an actor or a cinematographer or a costume designer, and I think you have to win their respect, and you get the best out of them, and just deal with changing situations all the time. Because, even on big films, I think, you just don't have enough time, and you have to trust people. And it taught me a lot about trust, actually. So it was a good life lesson about, almost about relationships, because you need to, you can't do everything. You have to trust. And as an editor, you have to really, you have everything available to you, and here,
I wanted to know how Red Line helped you for your career. Was it like a point where you got a bigger image with the nomination with the Oscar? Is that this movie that makes you want to do more, to make more, and go to directing?
I always wanted to direct, but it was very useful to me because it was very well regarded, and we got nominated. So of course, it just opens a lot of doors, and suddenly the quality of work gets better. What's offered to you, whether you deserve it or not. It's just you have, It didn't necessarily make me want to direct more than I did before, but it was a wonderful, wonderful, immersive, amazing experience when I was pretty young that just was intense and beautiful. And, it just made me love filmmaking, actually, because it was such a rich experience. Because you can have experiences that are not rich, difficult, and make you go, I want to do something else. And that one was really, really an amazing one, memorable one.
Doug Liman is one of the executive producers of your first film. Can you talk about your collaboration on Born Identity on this film?
That was a great collaboration. It was really his first big film, and I think it was my first big film alone, and a commercial film. And so we were both people that came from a different kind of world. And so I had an opportunity in that film to express myself in a much freer way. Because he was also a director, and we very quickly fell into it just worked well. Like it was an ability for, I think him to play with bigger toys and just do a film that wasn't indie. And for me, it was just, I had a lot of freedom to just create a style and a look and a feel. And he was a director that allowed that. And so it was a very difficult, long process. I'm not telling you things that are not in the news, but but it was an amazing experience. And it's the one film that people come up to me and they're like, oh my God, still today, the style of that film. They're really like people from all walks of life. They seem to really like it. And I think partially because it had some sort of rough indie spirit to it and a different kind of language, yet it had, it wasn't about disease and pain. It was, it was a big blockbuster, but had a very raw, freedom to it that was a little bit different, that we hadn't seen at that point for a while.
Okay, thank you.
How did you work on the script with Joe Conway?
We passed it back and forth. Like I would write, send it to him, then he would write, and we just did it that way. And then eventually, for a while, I was working alone on it because it took so long. And it was just, I don't think it was an unusual way of working, but it was kind of like a back and forth. What do you think of that? What do you think of this? Yeah.
Just for a movie, for the casting, Wes Bentley was your first choice?
I didn't. Okay, so I need to answer this in an interesting way because when you cast, it's not you don't like choices are very strange.
Yeah.
And I did go to somebody else, but it was at a different time when the script was a different script, and so he was my first choice.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a good choice.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know because yesterday you said that you write the script before the financial crisis.
Yeah.
So it makes long time for doing the movie.
Yeah.
And you have rewriting
Yeah.
script.
Yeah.
And was it not easy?
That was very hard. Rewriting is very, very hard. It's just to try to stay fresh, to just go through the script and read it, and then read it again, and try to just not be bored.
Yeah.
to try to imagine it for the first time is the hardest thing,
Yeah.
but it's the most important thing. Like rewriting is such a part of writing. I don't think anybody writes a script and goes, "Oh, great, it's done."
Yeah.
It's never done. It just has to go through a lot of scrutiny, and you have to question, and all the way to the very end. When you have your table read, and when you have your, before you shoot, when you have all your technical crew there.
Okay.
Even over there, you're like, well, we can't do this. Do we need to do this? Is it important? Why are we spending a whole day? So it just, on every level, writing is very, very difficult, and you keep writing.
Yeah.
When you're shooting, you keep writing because you have to change, because, sometimes for the best. Sometimes the scene doesn't work, and you're like, well, okay. Sometimes the film changes as you're making it,
Yeah.
because you realize, oh, wow, this is more interesting,
Mm-hmm.
And it's very hard, because a lot of times what happens, and I think it happened writing this script, is you have an idea, and it's so hard to get an idea financed and okay that you start questioning it. You start going, oh, why don't we make them, let's give them two heads, and let's make them, you start putting a lot of glossy stuff because you want to make it exciting to yourself, and you want to make it exciting to people to actually get it made.
Okay.
And then hopefully what happens is you go through a process where you come back and you go, let's
Yeah.
just wait a second, well, this is ridiculous. You can't have two heads, he's just a regular guy, and so you hopefully are able to come back. And sometimes you do that in the editing too. You're like, okay, this is the story. And I think we really did that. We started in a place, it was a very simple story about a man in crisis, and then we piled a lot of shit on it at some point in the worst part, and then we just wiped it off, and eventually we were like, okay, this is the story. Yeah.
I wanted to know about your inspiration for the photography, because it's really beautiful, your movie, and it reminds me of Breaking Bad, the TV show.
It does? Okay.
Yeah, but I wanted to know if it was something you thought about with the house and all
The landscapes
the colors.
and-
Yeah.
Well,
it's,
okay, so it was shot in the same place, but we were going for the opposite of Breaking Bad. And so the aesthetic, I think, is a lot different than Breaking Bad. I mean, I love Breaking Bad, but Breaking Bad is very colorful. You know, it's like the color palette is very, very extreme, and it's cut pretty fast. You know, and so in our film is a lot more. I think like it's a little bit wider, and the palette is more subdued. You know, the color palette, and and it's not as extreme. I think we don't have like Tuco and crazy characters.
No, but the rhythm, it's
the rhythm.
kind of,
That's interesting.
I think the rhythm was a little bit like the first season because it's really about a normal guy too, and it's really like going on, and the character evolve. I thought, a little bit like.
Well, I think the story is similar, the plot is similar, but I think the aesthetic and the approach is different. So, and we did shoot it in New Mexico, but so. Listen, I admire any comparison because it's a great show, and and I love it. So but I like to think we're like the film version of it. It's a little bit more contemplative. And so and we did. Some of the actors in our film are in Breaking Bad because when you shoot in a small community, which is what Albuquerque is, all the people that you hire for the day players are. They're in all the TV shows. So we have a lot of. We actually have a lot of day actors that are great, and it was really good because there's a lot of great day players, what we call, in New Mexico because they've worked on Breaking Bad for 5 years. I don't know, on other shows, so they're very experienced and really like a good group of talent. Where sometimes you go into a community and there's no history of film, and it's very hard. Yeah.
And about the movie inspiration, it reminds me American Beauty. Is it something that you thought about with Kevin Spacey's normal guy? And it's more hard because he really does the contrary of what he is.
Yeah.
And he's not at the end a normal guy.
Yeah.
And in your movie, it's positive. He's a regular guy.
Yeah.
And at the end, he's still someone good.
Yeah.
But is it something you
I
thought
didn't
about?
really think about it. And there's Wes Bentley, who played that much older. So I didn't really think about American Beauty, but it's definitely an American. It's got a little bit of an American kind of feel to it, I guess. I forget what community they were in, but no, I didn't. Honestly, I didn't. It wasn't an influence. Yeah. I mean, so yeah, for me.
Can you talk about your collaboration with Max Strettenfield about the important place of the music in your film?
That was the greatest collaboration of my life. Mark, sorry, confused me. Mark is a good friend of mine.
Okay.
So we've known each other. We met in Berlin on the Thin Red Line when he was there with Hans Zimmer, who he used to work with, and I was, a young editor on Thin Red Line, and I came and visited. We met, and he's a German guy, and he said, "Oh, I live in Venice, California," and I was like, "Oh, I live in Venice," and then we became friends. We've been friends for years, and very close friends, one of my best friends. And so I always knew when I was going to make a movie, and he knew that he was going to do the music to it. I didn't know he would become such a huge. It took me so long that he became such a huge composer, but he's a great guy, and he came and. When you work on movies, on big movies, you don't have or most movies, you make the film and you use temp music, what we call temporary music, from other soundtracks, from other films, and you cut it together, and the composer comes on, and he has a month and a half to write the music, and it's done. And either they like it, or they don't like it, and they fire him, and they bring another composer. And I always wanted to work in a way where I just feel music is just so important to the language. In cinema, it's not a novel. To create mood, to create feeling, and right off the bat, Mark was part of the script writing process. He read the scripts, he gave notes, he came to screenings all the time, and he gave me music beforehand. So we talked beforehand about themes, and he wrote themes, and then we didn't have a lot of music, but we had a few of the themes. There's a theme with a dog, and it's also when he throws the gun away, and he wrote that before. It may have been, it was after we shot or during the time that we shot. He's like, I have this idea, this is what we're thinking about. And he gave that to me. And so, and what was great about it, which is so rare, is that we had an opportunity, because we also we live in the same, very close to each other, that he would send me music, and we were working music, and I'd put it in the cut, and I'd be like, I don't know, Mark. And he's like, and I know it's not working, but it's too long. But, if you can remove things in measures of 8 seconds, I can make it work. instead of just changing and having them to have twist the music, a lot of times composers have to twist the music to fit a cut because they make it shorter and longer and moves all the time. And you can hear it, I think, you know, I mean, some great composers out there so they can mask it. But with Mark, we were just able to go, I'd be like, okay, here we go, take it back and forth. And so, and you know, I could just run to the studio and work with him. We can listen to stuff, and it was a much longer process. It took more time. And I think that Mark has such a, you know, he's a storyteller. He's like a filmmaker in his own right. And I think maybe one day he'll make a movie. And so he's got a very good sense of story, of a character, and doing that. And so, and he's just very innovative, and everything is handcrafted. He's not, oh, I did this before, let's just throw it on. Everything is well thought out and well crafted, and you know, he doesn't do a lot of films because he likes to spend a lot of time, be very, very engaged and involved in film. So I know when he worked with Ridley Scott, I mean, he'll be on for a year, which is unheard of, you know. He'll be there on location, and he'll come, and so he's very engaged and very hands-on. It was a really beautiful collaboration. And I think you did an amazing soundtrack, you know. So.
We talked about Wes Bentley before, and how did you choose the rest of the cast?
Casting. You know, you meet them, and I mean, Jason Isaacs, I always loved as an actor, and but he usually plays very dark characters. Yes. He was on a TV show called Brotherhood. I don't know if you guys seen it, but he plays a real tough, like, Irish mobster. Very, very tough, and then he's always played bad guys. But I always liked him. I thought it was really intense and really believable. And so, but then I saw him in another film called, I forget what it's called, but it's 10 short, it was a film that consisted of 10 films, and each film is one long Steadicam shot.
Oh.
And he did a thing, and it's Garcia Marquez, it's Gabriel Garcia Marquez's son. He did a film called The Women, Garcia Diego? I'm so bad at this, I should find it on my phone. But you can find out if it's it's Robin Wright and him are in this film, and he just plays. And I suggest that you see it. It's really beautiful. Yeah. It's about two old lovers that meet, but now she's pregnant with somebody else, and they're clearly still in love with each other. And he plays a much more like a very sensitive man. And he showed a lot more dimension, and I was like, ooh, I really like this guy. And the casting agent was like, that's really strange, because you said you wanted a really warm kind of guy. And I was like, yeah, but I like him. We'll give him the script. And he said, I love the script. And I met him in a hotel room, and we just talked for 3 hours. We just sat and talked. And it was like, great, you know, you're it. You know, and then Vanessa Shaw, through casting, you know, she, and Haley Bennett, who plays the girl, she was through my producer, Sarah Green, because she was doing something with Sissy Spacek, the actress, and so they were trying to get a movie together, and so she, you know, very late we were looking for Ruby, and I just wanted a girl who was very bright and I wanted something happy in his life, a little, you know, sunshine in his life, a guy whose life is falling apart, to have this kind of like, you know, something, two people that are kind to each other. The world is unkind to him. And just for little moments, you know, there's a woman who's just like, okay, you know, I want him to do some good. He's doing so much bad, and he does a little good over there. So, yeah. That was the casting process. And then everybody else was in New Mexico, which was great. In New Mexico, we just spent 3 weeks just meeting, you know, interesting people. There's a man, when he sells his watch, that guy, his name is Boots Sutherland. Boots Sutherland. He's a cattle auctioneer, you know. Can I get 15? Can I get 20? Can I get 30? 25? One of these guys. And he, Boots, just saw Boots, huge guy, interesting. And so Boots, we were like, okay, we have to have Boots. And then all the other actors, we just met there. And the kids, you know, were non-actors.
Jason also?
No, Jason we got in Los Angeles, but the kids were local kids and never acted before, or did a little bit. You know, the one kid, the little kid, Teddy, there was another kid, his brother, Zion, at the very end of the film when he goes and he knocks on the door, and there's the son of the guy who got accused for the crime, that's his older brother. And so we met his older brother, and we couldn't find the younger kid. We were having problems, but the family was there, the great hippie family, and they had 4 kids, and the casting director said, you should meet his daughter. She's incredible. She was in Breaking Bad. And we met this girl. She was a little girl. We're like, whoa, okay, she's really, really great. What was her name? What's her name? Zion? Kingston? They're all Jamaican names. Okay, I forget, which is horrible. But, and we met the daughter, and she was very, very cute and amazing. But I thought, I wanted it to be two sons. I thought it would be more interesting. I thought it would isolate the mother a little bit more. You know, it's all these men. She's surrounded by men all the time. And so we were like, yeah, we don't want to do it. And they're like, well, they have another little, they have another little brother. His name is Jamaica. And we were like, Jamaica, okay. And we brought Jamaica in, and he had a haircut. His head was shaved over here, and it was just like, he was punk rock. He was like 7 years old, and we were like, okay, Jamaica's great, but we can't. And he was losing a tooth, too, and we were like, oh no, you know. And so, and we were like, we'll do Jamaica. And we just cut his hair, and he was great. So we ended up having him, his older brother, and then we had the parents. There was a scene, it's very quick, when they're playing baseball at the very end, and they're sitting on the bleachers.
So
we
I
had-
love the baseball scene.
Oh, great.
I love it. This is
At the
my
end?
favorite.
No, the earlier one.
Yeah, the other,
Yeah, when the robbery.
Yeah.
So we had his family there. We had the whole family. They were an incredible family. Just really, really great. I mean, like, you know, I remember it was one of the most emotional parts of the film. It's when the father comes home and he missed the kid's game, and the
Yeah,
kid is like,
yeah.
"It's okay, Daddy."
Yeah.
So we were sitting over there with the mother, and she was crying because she saw her son acting and doing that, and I started crying. Because I was like, "It's real, you know."
Yeah,
It's just,
yeah,
it really
yeah.
felt amazing. It was incredible. Yeah.
You said like you chose to pick two children, two
Yeah.
boys, and all the men, and I wanted to talk about the theme of father and son,
Yeah.
because he's looking at his stepfather, he's thinking about what his father did, and it's surrounded by the idea of being someone good by his father or another one. Is it something you wanted to show?
Yeah, I mean, we always talked about the crimes of the father. What's called about is it that, you know, it's just like, really it's about him and his father and his son and what his father did and how they affect each other. And then you have Jason Frank, the cop, and his son. And so there's a lot of like, it's a lot about fathers and sons, you know, and you know, so yeah, that was very important for us as one of the themes about, you know, at one point he says to the cop, I just, you know, when he's doing bad things, he goes, I just don't, my son is doing bad at school, and I just don't want him to end up like me, you know, and that's what tells, it's a very big moment about him realizing that, you know, the damage that he's doing and the damage that was done to him, and, you know, because of, you know, the decision his father was made, it was a very extreme one. So, and there's a lot of, like, you know, we talked about, what is it called, the crime gene. You know, there's some people that say that, like, criminal activities in your DNA. I don't know if that's true or not, but it was very interesting just about how he behaves, you know, and what his father did without saying too much. Was that in the DNA? Was that in the genes, you know? And because we have so many things we don't know about our DNA, so that was kind of interesting to me at all. But it's definitely an important theme for us about, you know, fathers and sons. Yeah.
Maybe to finish, your film is in the official competition of the Deauville Film Festival. How do you feel about this?
I'm very excited. Whatever happens, happens. But I'm really glad to be in this festival, and you know, and I don't know how to answer. I mean, if we win, I'll be ecstatic. I will buy the whole city a drink. Of Deauville. I say that. I will.
Perfect.
And then I'll have to get a job. But I'm very excited to be here. I mean, it's been really. People told me about Deauville. They were like, "You have to go to Deauville."
Yes.
This is where you get filmmakers are really treated incredibly well. And from the first film at the big theater, it was just like, oh my God, bum, 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 bum. Music and lights. I felt like
Yes, it's like a show.
yeah, it was. It was like very French in a way, and very. I felt like what's that show? Game of Thrones.
Oh.
You know, I just felt very
like
dramatic.
Game of Thrones
And
entrance.
the people from the festival I met have been really incredible, and it's just And the people in the streets are just great. They walk up to you and they're like, they know your name.
Yeah.
They treat you like you're a real celebrity.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
but I'm excited. I'm excited to see the rest of the films, and and I hope I see good films here at Meet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank you very
guys.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.